Okay, everybody, we are going to get started here. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today for this panel discussion on digital access and opportunity in North Carolina. We hope that you find this webinar to be educational and meaningful. My name is Jordan Edders. I'm here with you as a representative from the Department of Administration. We house and support the Martin Luther King Jr. Commission, who is hosting this wonderful Lunch and Learn event for you today. We will be having a second event in this two-part series, which we'll get into the details of that a little bit later, but please be on the lookout for more information regarding our next event. We will have time for questions towards the end, and they can be submitted using the Q&A feature. And we'll also have the recording for this webinar and a resource document available on the Martin Luther King Jr. Commission's webpage in the next day. And so please be on the lookout for that information as well. But now I want to introduce you all to our moderator today, Ms. Phyllis Mack Horton. Phyllis is a dynamic technology thought leader with a passion for innovation and team excellence. As a Scrum Master, she thrives in fostering collaboration, efficiency, success, and best practices. Further than that, Phyllis is deeply committed to community engagement, serving others, and creating a meaningful impact in her community. And as a valued member of the Martin Luther King Jr. Commission, Phyllis serves alongside others in the interests of the people of North Carolina. And so I will now turn it over to you, Phyllis, and we can get started. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Jordan, and welcome. And thank you, everyone, for joining today. On behalf of the North Carolina Martin Luther King Jr. Commission, I am honored to welcome you to today's panel discussion on digital access and opportunity in North Carolina. This conversation aligns with our commission's mission to embody Dr. King's values by taking urgent action to reduce inequity and drive comprehensive, justice-centered change for all North Carolinians. Digital opportunity and access is deeply aligned with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s vision of justice, equality, and empowerment. Dr. King fought tirelessly to break down barriers that kept marginalized communities from fully participating in society, whether economic, educational, political. Today, digital access represents a new frontier in that fight. The internet and technology are powerful tools for education, job opportunities, civic engagement, and social mobility. However, disparities in broadband access and digital literacy often mirror the inequalities Dr. King sought to dismantle. Ensuring that all communities, especially those historically underserved, have equitable access to technology is a continuation of his work toward a more just and inclusive society. This conversation is essential because it brings awareness to how technological inequities can deepen existing gaps. It also fosters solutions to empower communities with the resources they need to thrive in a digital world. In essence, digital inclusion is civil rights in the modern age. Discussing digital access within the framework of MLK's legacy challenges us to uphold his values and push for justice in the spaces where it is most needed today. I do want to recognize that I saw fellow Commissioner Catherine Williamson Hardy that has joined us as well. So I do want to note that. And we have a privilege to esteemed group of panelists that I will introduce shortly. Our first speaker is Annette Taylor. Annette is Deputy Secretary of Broadband and Digital Opportunity of the North Carolina Department of Information Technology. Annette was appointed Deputy Secretary of Broadband and Digital Opportunity on March 7th of this year. She joined NCDIT in May of 2022 as the Director of the Office of Digital Opportunity. established as the first of its kind in the nation. As Deputy Secretary, she will oversee the investment of nearly $1 billion in federal American Rescue Plan funds and $30 million in state funding for high-speed internet infrastructure access and adoption. So welcome, Annette. Our next speaker is Dr. Brooke Wheeler. Dr. Wheeler is Superintendent of Prison Education Services of the North Carolina Department of Adult Corrections. Dr. Wheeler is the current superintendent for prison education services with the North Carolina Department of Adult Corrections. With an academic and professional background in education and educational services, Dr. Wheeler has served not only as a teacher, assistant principal, and principal, but also as a consultant to North Carolina DPS to develop an online module that teaches school resource officers and principals how to maximize school safety. Welcome, Dr. Wheeler. Our
Thank you.
next panelist is Cindy U. Robinson. She is the Executive Director of Cramden Institute. Cindy has worked in 4 sectors: government, U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, Wake County, private, Oracle, Lenovo, and AECOM, academic, Stanford University, and nonprofit, NAACP and Cramden Institute. Her passion for good governance, public engagement, leadership, and sustainability align with Cramden Institute's purpose of connecting Carolinians and building digital equity. So welcome, Cindy. So thank you, each one of you, for joining our panel today. And our first question is, what does digital access and broadband mean? So we'll start out by deferring to Annette to kick off our discussion.
Sure, thank you. And I want to start by thanking you, Commissioner Horton, and of course to Jordan for hosting this important conversation, and of course to the MLK Commission for seeing the important need for this discussion. And of course, I want to thank my esteemed panelists who are also my community partners in this work. And you all really put a lot of pressure on me with that number 2 question. But yes, I'll kick us off talking about broadband access and digital access and what it all means. And then I'll pull up a couple of slides to drive home the work that we're doing here at the state to close the digital divide. And I don't know, Jordan, am I pulling up my slides or you are?
I can do it. That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
One
And
moment.
Sure, but I will go ahead and just define, and I'll show you a little bit more about what that means when the slides come up. But digital access and even, broadband, as we're talking about it, refers to all residents having availability of broadband access, high-speed internet, as well as the type of devices and tools that they need, as well as the skills to thrive in this digital economy. A lot of words have been said already that kind of define that, as Commissioner Horton was kicking us off. But I think it's important for people to know that we're meeting people where they are in the various different ways. So I'll talk a little bit about that as we go throughout this webinar. But what you see there on the screen is a snapshot of what the divide kind of looks like from a mapping perspective of unserved and underserved locations. Just so people know, another definition for broadband in general, as we define high speed. Currently, the standard is 25 megabits per second download and 3 megabits per second upload. Can anyone actually function on that at home or in your business? And what our goal is that the standard would become through the FCC 100 megabits per second download and 20 megabits per second upload. In North Carolina, the red locations are considered unserved. 213,000 locations, which can be homes or businesses, that is the number currently that are unserved, and 130,000 are underserved locations. So that means really people don't have much access at all, over 200,000. So of those 343,000 homes and businesses that we have left to connect, we have been provided funding to connect more than 230,000 of them to fiber internet. That's very important. Not everyone can get access to fiber, but that is what we're focusing on right now. We started making awards in 2022, and we continue to make awards really now on a weekly basis. I don't know if you all are following us, but we are, the governor has been announcing awards for the recent projects that we've been contracting with internet service providers. And we are expecting another 1.5 billion to come into the state to continue connecting our residents by the year 2030. So, just know that is really how we are defining broadband access, and also what we see as the serviceable locations in North Carolina. We can go on to the next slide. This slide is really a glance at the digital divide in North Carolina as we see it. We are attempting to close that divide as it relates to digital devices, skills, and affordability. You'll hear a lot about that from my colleagues when they speak, but what we know, or what we've heard from the census data, is that 328,000 households do not have a home laptop or desktop. Well, we believe we were closing that divide, but then when the hurricane happened, of course, there could be a lot more that probably lost some, or some got damaged. And so we're working very hard with our community partners out there, but that is what we've been working with through our Digital Opportunity Office and the funding that we received from the American Rescue Plan Act. Also, when we talk about affordability, our goal is to make sure that every household is actually able to afford internet service, because as our governors would say, what is the use of laying all this infrastructure if people cannot actually afford an internet service? And we know that 1.3 million households in North Carolina would have to pay more than 2% of their annual income, because the average cost is about $60 a month. I think that could be so much more for many people. We also know from a skills perspective that 91% of jobs in North Carolina require at least one digital skill and the use of a computer. So, but in the country, 1/3 of our workers don't even have the foundational digital skills, and we want to change that. We want to improve that. We want everyone to be able to thrive and work the way that they want to work. If they want a gig job so that they can do Uber or they can do Instacart, they'll need to have the foundational skills, but also know how to function on a device. Next slide. And then this dashboard, and since just for the sake of time, I'm not going to do an actual demonstration, but the link to this dashboard is at the top of the slide. This shows how our grants infrastructure projects are awarded by county. We encourage everyone to go to the county that you're most interested in to get a sense of how much money is going into that county, which provider is actually doing the work, and really what their time frame is. But what this dashboard shows, because our goal is to not just be accountable for the work that we're doing and hold our providers accountable, but to be transparent with with the state and with our residents. And just this example here, is looking at 15,000 households in that Hayward. It looks like they've selected Hayward County. And so you can see here that there's a combination of providers who received awards. Spectrum, Skyrunner is there. And so in this particular incident, you can also, or this particular example, you can see that 827 businesses will be served. And so just want to give you a quick snapshot. This is actually a slide that shows it updated as of February. But if you were to go out and do your own search, you would be able to get an updated view. But we keep this updated on a regular basis. Next slide. Okay. And so I think it's important for people to know that we are constantly looking for more ways to inform people, educate people, and really help people get access to the tools and resources that they need. And so this is an effort that we crowdsource actually to come up with the data, work with a variety of community members, digital navigators, academic partners to create this tech resource finder. I do encourage you to use the QR code there so that you can explore it for yourself. But what we're doing is really trying to help people get access to resources and tools like devices. If you need a device to be able to work from a desktop at home or a laptop so that you can work or go to school, where can you find that? Where do I need to get that? Who's doing an actual literacy program? Is there a community center or a place in the town that I live in that will actually offer these classes or digital skills classes? There are a lot of senior centers that are offering them. So you can click on this tech resource finder, put in your zip code to determine who's serving you and how can you get access to these services. So we're calling that our tech resource finder, and we are committed to keeping this updated and current. But people can still inform us of it or go into the system, go into it and attempt to add yours if you don't see it listed there. So we have over 1,000 so far in this system. I'm happy to answer questions about that later. And then just finally, we have partnered with the United Way of North Carolina. We're very proud of this partnership with their NC 211. Many people know 211 as a service for your basic needs like housing and food and healthcare and transportation. But we thought it made sense in this day and time and in the state of the digital divide in North Carolina to make sure that people can get access to skills, building, to access to devices, where to find information, like free Wi-Fi, same type of information we were talking about in the tech resource finder. But this service is available 24 hours a day. Someone can just call 211 up, just like they do for help with transportation or healthcare, and get access to resources in their community to be able to, access the digital resources that we've been talking about. So I think that may conclude my slides, but I thought it was a good way to kick off the session and respond to the issue around the digital divide and what the state is doing about it, since y'all put me on the spot by saying that yes, we do take full responsibility for helping to get everyone connected to high-speed internet and affordable internet, or how to get access to affordable internet, and working with the internet service providers. So I'll pause there, see if you want to ask a question, or feel free to hand it back over to you, Commissioner Horton.
Okay, thank you so much for that information, Annette. Jordan, do we have any questions from the audience? She was able to provide us with a lot of information and details and resources about where we are within the state. Does anyone have any questions?
We don't have any yet, but I will keep you updated.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Deputy Secretary, Annette, I did have a question in regards to how do we gauge our progress. So I did hear a date of 2030, and I was just interested in, do we have other quantitative numbers in addition to that, or what does that look like?
Okay, very good question. So I do want to clarify about that time frame. So our initial awards that we have been investing in, supplementing the work of our internet service providers, we're using American Rescue Plan Act funds, ARPA funds. And the providers who are receiving those funds have 2 years to build out, although it can take longer, but they really have 2 years. By the end of 2026 is when this initial connectivity should be, the progress should be there. There's always progress going on. So people who are interested in knowing when will it happen in my town, in my area? When will I have access? Even if they go to that dashboard and they click their home, you can put your address in there. You can put your address in. If you don't see what you need and it's not making sense to you, we actually have tech support. We have a customer service team who can answer questions for you specifically. They can connect you to that provider in that area, and you can get all the answers you need about when will it happen in your. So there are different time frames for different places, but it does take time to build out the infrastructure.
Okay, thank
The
you so much.
2030 date, though, just to clarify that, I also mentioned that we're expecting 1.5 billion from the federal government. And if you all hear the term BEAD, BEAD, that refers to broadband equity, access, and deployment. And it is an act that was created during the Biden-Harris administration as a part of the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, IIJA. And so those funds have been received, although we recognize that there may be potential changes to how that funding is expected to be used, but we are preparing our providers to be able to bid on the new work, and that funding would allow them to build out until 2030.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Deputy Secretary. All right, my next question is, what does a lack of digital and broadband access opportunity mean for marginalized communities in North Carolina? And so, Cindy, I will say I did a deep dive into your website. You do such great work. So I'm going to defer to you and Dr. Wheeler. But we'll go ahead and get started with you, Cindy.
Thank you for the opportunity to address this group. At Cramden Institute, as a nonprofit, we try to provide computer basics education, both in person and online, as well as devices for K through 12 students and low-income adults. There are 8 covered populations that the federal and state governments have helped us focus on, and we continue to focus on them. I would say, if just a broad brush, probably 3/4 of North Carolinians fall into one of the categories, and they include seniors, rural people who live in rural areas, incarcerated or reentry individuals, veterans, individuals with disabilities, racial and ethnic minorities, those with English or other language barriers, and people who are low income, and those who are in the LGBTQ plus spectrum. So we have a lot of people that we want to serve. Cramden has had the fortune of being in a computer refurbisher for about 20 years. So now we're really focusing on the best way to work with not only the state, but community partners to get devices out to more counties in North Carolina. And so those are the folks who we're focusing on. Our methods are low cost or free devices, but really the education piece is really important to us. I will say that in learning, working with various communities, councils of governments, small nonprofits, churches, we learn that trust is super, super important. Just coming out and saying, we want to give you lower cost and reliable internet or broadband, and just saying, we have a free device for you. We want to enroll you in a class for free. There's a lot of questions. People want to know, why do I need to change? And so what's on the line for us is digital opportunity is equivalent. It's a gateway to educational opportunity, health opportunity, and economic opportunity. So the big buzzword right now is workforce development. But if you think about all the things that we use our computers for and broadband access, it includes crime and safety in your community. It includes banking, purchasing, telehealth, working or learning from home, and even entertainment or connections with families far away. So, and in other countries. We take this work very seriously, and we're very, very happy to have trusted partners in various communities across the state to do that with.
Okay, thank you very much, Sydney. Before we go to Dr. Wheeler, Jordan said that we do have a question. So let's go ahead. Jordan, if you'll ask that question.
Absolutely. So our question was, are there funds and resources available to survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault in shelters, or perhaps resources for people who are victims that stay in their homes? So I'll turn that back to you, Phyllis.
Okay. Would anyone like to provide insight on that question? Okay, Annette?
I'll start by
Okay.
saying that we launched several grant funding opportunities. Our ARPA funds have already been released to actually some of the partners on here. But those funds can serve people in domestic violence shelters. And people in the shelters, of course, fall into many of these categories that Cindy just described. But I'm really proud of one of our grants with the North Carolina Coalition Against Domestic Violence, a statewide organization that is really focusing statewide, but I know that they invested a lot of those resources in the Buncombe County area. But yes, there is not a distinct focus on the victims, but I am certain that those victims can get access to resources that have been funded by our office.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy Secretary, and thank you, Jordan, for an audience member for that question. Again, we're going to go to Dr. Wheeler, and our question was, what does the lack of digital and broadband access opportunity mean for marginalized communities in North Carolina? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity also to address this group. So one might not immediately identify the Department of Adult Correction with digital access and opportunity. But what people do not think about very often is that 95% of all incarcerated people re-enter the community in this country. And so it is very critical that we prepare them for re-entry and prepare them to be able to function in society successfully, that we do not set them up for failure. Because society changes, while they are not actively in it. And we all need employment. We need a place to live, to be connected with friends and family, to provide for ourselves and to provide for our families, and so much more. I mean, entertainment also is a piece of digital access and opportunity. But education is my specialty, but there are so many more. You mentioned baking as well. And when the incarcerated person re-enters the community after being out of the community for some period of time, and sometimes that is very, very long. It can be 6 months, but it could also be 6 years or 40 years. And so obviously the world changes, and we know how fast technology changes. And so there is a desperate need for us to prepare that population to access high quality broadband in order to participate fully in that community in which they live. If you think about, if you couldn't use the internet or a computer or a cell phone, could we even function in society? There are actually movies about that these days that show when the grid goes down, the world stops. And if we release these people without providing them with the skills to be successful and to access the things that they need to access in order to be employed or access banking, et cetera, we are just doing a disservice. So it's absolutely critical to reach this population with access to broadband and digital literacy. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that, Dr. Wheeler. The next question is, if all of the North Carolina residents had high quality broadband and digital access to include devices and educational opportunities, what kind of impacts could that have? And I'll open that up to our panelists. Dr. Wheeler, would you like to start? Yes.
Sure, sure. This is something that we really do take into consideration with the incarcerated population. When a person comes out of prison, they do not usually have those things. They don't have a phone, they don't have a computer, they don't have access to the internet immediately unless they have support from their family. And some are lucky enough to have that, but many are not. But when we teach them how to use that technology and then we provide them with that technology, it and this would apply, of course, to any North Carolinians. If everyone had access, everyone could then have equitable access to jobs, to restore family relationships, housing opportunities, to pay bills, to participate in educational programming, and so much more. I mean, we don't, in this day and age, we don't necessarily need transportation to get access to these things, but we have to have technology and access to broadband and digital opportunities.
Okay. Dr. Wheeler, I had a question. Are there instructor-led trainings for those people that are incarcerated, and what types of programs do they have access to?
There are. I'm excited to say that we have a beautiful partnership with NCDIT, and Annette is one of my partners that we work very closely together on this. To ensure that we do provide that kind of instruction, we have piloted a digital literacy program. It has been wildly successful, and so we are now rolling that out statewide. We also have put technology, including laptops, a safe, secure internet system, wireless, so that people can learn how to do these things. We also have tablets, and those things are taught. Those skills are taught by instructors from the community colleges and our other educational partners. I am so proud to say. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. All right. Does anyone else have any additional comments to add?
I'll wrap up, or I will add to that because Cindy might want to provide her perspective, but I think what we all know is that it's a game changer. It would be a game changer. It's life-changing in general, because I think anyone on here would admit that we'd probably be fairly stifled if we could not use our devices every day or our laptop computers. It just has opportunity for impact on the economy, like every economy, because of the way technology is changing. I mean, people cannot afford to get even more behind with AI, people trying to understand how that is going to potentially be a disruptor. I mean, it has positive impacts, but our goal is to make sure people are using online services safely as well. So there's a lot to think about when we think about people using devices, but what we want is for people to be able to thrive, and people thrive in so many different ways, but they need to have access to quality healthcare. And with the way it is to get appointments, people need to be able to do telehealth and, meet with a doctor online. That's potentially life-changing. People need opportunities to make higher wages. I mean, the cost of living is tough as it is if you don't know how to use a device, but you can use a device and really thrive even without a college degree. But people can now actually go to school online, so, and I also think it's important for people to know that when we advocate for people to have devices, our hope is that they'll have a large screen device. That's what we see is closing that device gap. Of course, there's so many great uses of a handheld of a cell phone, but they're very expensive. They're very expensive, and but there are certain things you don't want to do, like if you own a business. So potentially some entrepreneurs on here. So at the end of the year, when you got to file your taxes, you need to be able to do that on a large screen device. So we recognize all of those types of factors when we think about the uses of it and how we're looking to meet people where they are.
Okay. Thank you, Annette. Cindy, did you want to add to that as well?
Yeah, I think that we take for granted how much technology enables us to save time, get information, feel safe. After each of our classes, we do follow up with our device recipients about the impact the technology and the education has had on their lives. And surprisingly, to me, 98% of the folks say, I feel safer, I feel more connected in my community. I thought it would be, oh, I applied for a new job, or I'm now able to help my grandchildren with their homework or their homework assignments. It is really about feeling connected to the communities that they live in. So I am going this month, a number of us from North Carolina are going to the National Net Inclusion Conference. My very first inclusion conference, I learned that states out west with large rural populations, their first appointment for prenatal care is telehealth. So imagine how we can really revolutionize health ownership through computer ownership. That's something that I've heard from our health partners, is that they really want individuals to take charge of their own care by making appointments, meeting with their doctors. And if telehealth can be part of that equation and that success, that's really enabled through technology, through broadband and device ownership. So really excited that we're having this conversation. It is very timely. Another point I wanted to make was NCDIT recently held a gathering of, I think, over 200 people in the state who could make the meeting to talk about where has digital inclusion grown over the last 5 years. And I think the people who are coming to the table are not just social justice individuals who really want a fair playing field. They're really individuals that are invested in the economic growth of not only our residents, but also our communities and the state as a whole. So it's the people who are involved in digital inclusion are different now. And I'm glad that we're having this conversation today.
All right. Thank you, Cindy. Dr. Wheeler, did you have a comment as well?
Yes, I just wanted to add, one of the things, and Cindy mentioned this, and is that, we have so many resources in the world for people who are struggling, but without access to technology and without understanding how to use it and use it safely, it's very difficult to learn about all of the resources. And so just as they mentioned earlier, access to information is so critical in addition to these other just life functions. I also wanted to just mention that, things like typing a resume. I mean, no one can go into an interview and take a handwritten resume anymore. Just basic life skills that, as Cindy said, we do take for granted very often.
Thank you for that. I do have a question in regards to those populations with disabilities, neurodiversity. Do we have programs to support those populations as well?
Well, I'll speak up about disabilities.
Mhm.
We have a partnership. So when we made our initial interagency digital opportunity grants, we partnered with several of the state agencies who had existing programs that just needed to scale up.
Mhm.
And one was the state's Office of Disabilities. Can't think of the name of it right now, but with Health and Human Service. And they're focusing on that population, but and several of our most recent grant awards were to community-based organizations, lots of nonprofits, and many of them are focusing the work on people with disabilities. I think it's a really important point because what people may not think about is how people with maybe not physical disabilities, but they can't see, but maybe, optical or visual, they may need a different type of device. You know,
Right.
they have certain special ones that they need. And even as it relates to people with hearing challenges, they also have access to certain computers and technology that they use to be able to even reach 911, but it's so computerized. So that's important, and I appreciate you bringing that up. But there's a set of populations that would be, I guess, targeted in our next grant cycle, but we have been very intentional in our investments to make sure that marginalized populations that, you know, Brooke and Cindy have defined are included in applications that we receive for the work. So we, again, want to reach all, you know, populations and folks with disabilities. We certainly recognize how they are more challenged, I guess, than many when it comes to the workforce, even healthcare. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Neurodiverse. I do want to just quickly mention that North Carolina Department of Information Technology has a neurodiverse internship program. So even though we're talking about what's happening in the broadband office, but overall, we want to make an effort to, you know, consider those special, you know, individuals when it comes to the workforce. So we have an internship program. People can find it on our website.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Our next question is, what important resources, programs, and information are available that North Carolinians should know about? Actually, Annette had a number of resources in her presentation, the Tech Resource Finder, the Broadband Dashboard, and then I guess any low cost or free opportunities. I know when I visited Cindy's website, they have those opportunities as well. So just providing some updates for, you know, additional resources and how people can find them and access them.
So if you're not web savvy and you're not on the internet right now, please know that 211 in North Carolina is a great resource. They now have a special trained group of folks called digital navigators. So when you call 211, whether it's for social service support or information about local anything, you can ask for a digital navigator, and there is a team of folks who will help you find resources in your community close to you, whether it's low-cost broadband or free devices or a library that has device loaner programs or even classes. So don't forget 211.
Okay.
And I'll just add to that that people should know that the services are available in most languages that are spoken in North Carolina, and we're on a mission to make sure that the top languages in North Carolina are the websites for all of the state agencies, you know, have the languages. So we're in the midst of kind of a language access initiative and project with the state.
With
Yeah.
translations, yes. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. I did want to pause. In addition to Commissioner Catherine Williamson Hardy, who has joined, I do see that Commissioner Marcus Bass, as well as Commissioner Dr. Charles Johnson, they have joined us as well. And I just wanted to know if they have any particular questions, because we're all working on our upcoming events as well in regards to technology. So feel free to let us know if you have any additional questions as well.
So good afternoon, Phyllis. This is Dr. Johnson. Let me congratulate you on what is a fantastic panel. I've been, I guess, lurking in a manner of speaking for a little while now. I did have a question I wanted to ask the panelists, and if I missed it, do forgive me. I'm wondering if there's data with regard to African Americans specifically and broadband access. Has that been discussed?
Dr.
And
Johnson, we haven't discussed that today, but we do have some racial and ethnic demographics if you're interested in terms of the folks that we have served through classes and device distribution. But we're a small slice.
Wonderful. Where would I get access to that information?
We haven't published it on our website. We did it for a client in Forsyth County, so we'd be happy to share that with you.
Okay. All right. Is that just for Forsyth, or is that
No,
is
it's
that?
for all of our work over the last 20 years.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Well, I would appreciate having access to that. Jordan, if you can help us with that, that would be great.
Sure. And I would just add that we don't publish the granular data, but that is data that the FCC could potentially be collecting with their from the ACS, or that the census survey that we were using early on. I would say is probably not updated because I think the census, I don't think it's updated, but I would be happy to check into it and get it back to you, Dr. Johnson, with more details about how to get that type of data.
thank you, Deputy Secretary. All right. The next question I have, does anyone have any anecdotes about individuals or communities that have actually been transformed by improved digital access, such as a student excelling in online learning, maybe acquiring a degree, or a farmer that's using some type of precision agriculture? Does anyone have any personal anecdotes that you could share? Some good stories of how we have impacted our community. Cindy, I see you're off mute. Oh, okay. Dr. Wheeler?
Well, I have many, many, many. But in the interest of time, I will share a couple of just really heartwarming, I think, stories. We have a Campbell University bachelor program that we are able to offer a 4-year degree for a relatively large group of individuals. And we are able to do that through a hybrid model where instructors, some are synchronous, some are asynchronous, and some are in person. But it does allow, we actually have a field ministry program as well through Judson College. And both are offered through a hybrid program. And to hear the stories of the individuals who are in these programs will just make you feel so light. So they talk about the freedom that they feel, because while the body may be incarcerated, the mind is not. And so to be able to provide those kinds of opportunities, one particular situation stands out in my mind that was recent. We have an associate degree at Pamlico Correctional Institution through Pamlico Community College, also a hybrid model. But one student, actually, that is a medium custody institution. And so he earned his minimum custody classification, which is a great accomplishment for someone who's incarcerated. And so, those people want to be able to go to a minimum custody institution where they can do things like work release, apprenticeships, other educational programs. And so he was able to actually go to a minimum custody facility, which has never occurred, that someone could go leave the institution where they were housed and go to a lower custody or any other institution and complete the degree. And that was through a collaboration, obviously, with DIT, because their grants have provided so much for us. The Department of Adult Correction has also put forth quite a bit of funding for digital literacy. But there was this one student. I actually have a video. We don't have time to show it, but if anybody ever wants to see it, this student who graduated, and we held a graduation for him alone. And the Pamlico Community College traveled across the state to come and see him. And this man and his family will just bring you to tears. His story and the way that this affected him. So there are many other ones like that. And then tablet technologies also are available to all of the people who are incarcerated in North Carolina at this point. And there are many opportunities to participate in individualized educational programs through various modules on those tablets. I mean, there are more than 2,000 opportunities, more than 3,000 opportunities on there. And so just really great stories of employment upon release, of the freedom of the mind, of the learning of critical thinking and the ability to make different and better decisions through these opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Willard. That is so nice to hear, and I appreciate that. I am emotional, so I will definitely look at the video in my own time, but we appreciate you telling us about that story. Another question that I had was in regards to lessons from other states. So it looks like North Carolina is setting the stage for being, at the forefront of this digital access and broadband access. But are there any case studies or other programs that we are looking at that we could serve as models for North Carolina? I was just interested in what other states are doing as well.
I don't know if Cindy or Brooke have examples for the industry that they're in for
Oh,
other states, but
mhm.
I'll go back to what you shared earlier about North Carolina having been the first to establish an Office of Digital Opportunity, which
Mhm.
started with Governor Cooper establishing as the Office of Digital Equity and Literacy. It was the first in the state. And what was so wonderful about it is that the General Assembly appropriated $50 million for digital literacy programs, which was very important to make sure that funding was available to help people get access and to partner across the state with entities to kind of, close the gaps beyond the broadband infrastructure. And we've been able to do that. And we've noticed even in those investments, just these life-changing programs. And, I can't name them all, but I would be happy to kind of get a list to you all or to the MLK Commission so that, if there's one in the town you're representing, the county you're representing, you might want to visit with them, or you might want to learn more about what they're doing. And
Mhm.
I would like to piggyback on a reentry story from one of our grantees called Our Journey, which I know Brooke knows about them, but Our Journey received funding from our office, and they just shared about how excited a couple of released inmates felt when they got what they're calling the first aid reentry kits that have a cell phone in them, because they'll need that, as Brooke has explained, and really what it meant to them, and how they have been able to begin to get on track by having this device. And we get a lot of great reports in when we do our kind of monthly check-ins with our grantees. But I would just say it's been not just life-changing, but life-saving.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
I'll just add to that I am very in tune with other states. We have a council of directors, which is all of the people in my position in every state. And we meet together as part of the Correctional Education Association monthly. And we get together in person twice a year. And I cannot tell you how valuable that has been. It is a place where we can go and learn what other states are doing, but also say, I'm working on this particular issue. How can I get past this hurdle? How can I get over the hump? There are barriers in so many places for the incarcerated setting and also incarcerated people who are re-entering the community. And so working with other states has been critical. It actually helped us to determine some of the programming we're able to offer, some of the educational opportunities. And I've recently been named to two leadership positions within the country, though, within the American Correctional Association, because, though, North Carolina is still seen as a leader in correctional education, and also and therefore also in implementing technology within the correctional institutions, which has been a bear of a problem. There have been barriers everywhere. And thanks to DIT, thanks to partnerships, and thanks to some advice I've gotten from other states, we have gotten over many of those hurdles and continue on the path to expansion and improvement.
Thank you, Dr. Wheeler. Did Jordan, I did see your message. Did Commissioner Bass have a comment or a question? Okay.
I believe he did. One moment.
Okay, yes. Commissioner Bass?
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you to the individual panelists that provided this excellent framing of the technology priorities for North Carolina and opportunities to engage. I was on a call yesterday with Wake County Public Schools, and they talked about computer learning and AI. And one of the questions was around equity, or in this moment, I think probably equity may not be the preferred word at the federal level, but the expansion of computer-based learning, the ability for our state to capitalize on that, particularly in rural communities, is one question. And it may have already been addressed in the upfront, but if so, please forgive me. I came on a few minutes late. So that's the first question, our thoughts around the intersection between the technology priorities of the state and the integration of computer learning, AI. And then the second question, there seems to be an environmental piece here where some of the mining or the use of these tools and technologies create some deficiencies in environmental distressed areas where in some cases we need to also be thinking about that as well. I don't know if there's a stance, Deputy Secretary or anyone on the team, in regards to some of the systemic environmental impact of technology-based learning, AI, computer-based learning, these modules that take exhaustive amounts of energy in our state as a resource.
Very much so. Thank you for bringing that up. I'll say that the state, the governor's office, other cabinet secretaries for sure are very much attuned to the impact of AI on all of the whole state, but certainly the school systems and young learners and even their homes, as well as environmental impacts. So to that point, the Secretary of the Department of Information Technology, Tina Piccioni, has made it a priority by establishing the first AI policy role. And she brought on Esau Say. I don't know if you've seen the press release out there, but I'll send that to you all. It's very important because she wants to make sure that we are ahead on this and the impacts that it has on not just our state agencies, but other governmental entities, which Wake County Public Schools would fit into that. He's just getting started and he is creating a plan, a strategic plan and a vision in partnership with the governor's office and how we'll serve other entities. And I think it's important to make sure that all of our school systems, I'm sure he's working closely with our superintendent Green on ways to make sure the school systems, there's an alignment there. And so I think that would be one of the first ways, but he is creating a center for excellence that will have a full-blown plan. And I thank you for bringing it to me, and please do continue to come back to me with that and make sure that we're thinking about how the school systems are focusing on that and how we can help at DIT. Real quick, from an environmental standpoint, I couldn't remember if this 115 or 130, but from an environmental standpoint, in the previous administration, there was the environmental task force. I don't know all the names. I think Environmental Justice Task Force but there's a small role that DIT plays in it when it comes to just environmental social justice for those communities. And we know that keeping devices out of landfills is very a big part of that. And we're prepared to do our part. We actually provided 2 statements on our commitment to that. And I think that we're on the right track when it comes to working with our refurbishers in North Carolina, because Cindy mentioned about even expanding their reach when it comes to distributing refurbished devices, but taking them in, taking in the parts and determining what makes sense to do with those parts.
Yes, I appreciate that, Deputy Secretary Annette. And I did see that information when I visited Cramden's website. We at the commission want to be an incubator for resources. So anything that we can do to support you, then please ensure that we receive that information so that we can disseminate it to our community. So thank you for that. Do we have any other questions, Jordan?
No other questions right now. Cindy, did you have anything that you wanted to add? I saw you came off mute.
Yes, thanks for the question, Commissioner Bass, about sustainability. One of our 5 core values is sustainability, because we keep 100% of all the technology donations to Cramden out of landfill. What we try to do first is reuse through refurbishing and redistribution. Secondly, we'll take the parts that we can't use or can't Frankenstein together and sell them to other refurbishers, either in our state or across the United States. We don't sell to international parties, so that they can tinker and reuse. And finally, anything that cannot be reused will go to recycling. I think the environmental literacy of our state and our younger generation is pretty poor. We need to continue to help people think about reducing and rethinking before recycling. So that's just my little green tip for the day, but be happy to work with the commission more on the idea of keeping landfills smaller and basically growing that green industry for people of all backgrounds.
Okay. All right. If we don't have any other questions, then I just want to thank all of you for joining us for this important conversation on broadband access. We deeply appreciate your participation and engagement, and also a special thank you to our incredible panelists for sharing their insights and expertise. Your contributions have made this event truly meaningful. We welcome your feedback and suggestions. So we do have a survey and a follow-up email that everyone will be receiving. I do see as an attendee a former Commissioner Betty Eidner. So thank you, Betty, for joining. We were on a commission together, so I was glad to see her. And please let us know what we can do and within Northern Orange County as well. We encourage everyone to visit the MLK Commission website to stay informed about upcoming events, including an extension of today's discussion on technological inequities. So please mark your calendars in celebration of Juneteenth. We will be hosting an event on June 19th, where we will have an AI panel that will be moderated by Dr. Charles Johnson at North Carolina Central University. It will be a lunch and learn as well. It's a deep dive into this critical topic. It is free and open to the public, and it will also include lunch. In your follow-up email, we will have registration information for that event. So we hope to be able to see you there. Once again, thank you again to our panelists for your valuable perspectives, and to all of you for being a part of this conversation. I am wishing you a very fantastic rest of the week. And just remember, you're already halfway there. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you all.